Power doesn't come from what you do, but from what you deliberately leave undone. I've studied the masters of influence for years and discovered their most guarded secret: strategic emptiness. While everyone else is busy making noise, the true puppet masters are crafting silences that others rush to fill. Machiavelli understood this 500 years ago. The prince who reveals everything becomes predictable. The prince who creates calculated gaps becomes irresistible. This isn't manipulation. It's human psychology at its most fundamental. Think about it. When was the last time you couldn't stop thinking about someone? I bet they didn't show you everything. The partially revealed story compels us more than the fully told one. The unfinished pattern demands completion. We're hardwired to fill gaps. Our brains crave closure. The strategic void isn't about being mysterious for its own sake. It's about understanding exactly which spaces to leave blank, so others will color them in precisely how you want. Today, I'll show you how to identify the psychological triggers that activate this completion instinct in others. You'll learn why the most successful leaders, negotiators, and persuaders aren't the ones who push hardest, but those who create irresistible vacuums that pull others toward them. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how to craft these strategic voids in your professional and personal life. Ready to discover why what you don't do might be more powerful than anything you could say or do? Let's begin. Number 1. The incompletion principle. Have you ever noticed how some leaders seem to effortlessly gain buy-in for their ideas, while others struggle despite presenting perfect plans? The difference isn't in what they show, but in what they strategically leave out. Think back to the last time you felt truly invested in a project. Chances are you had a hand in shaping it. When we create something, we value it more. This psychological phenomenon has a name: the IKEA effect. Studies show people value furniture. They assembled themselves up to 63% more than identical pre-assembled pieces. But the most skilled influencers take this further by deliberately designing spaces for others to contribute. Consider what happens in brainstorming meetings. The executive who walks in with a complete solution gets compliance at best, but the leader who presents a thoughtful framework with specific gaps for others to fill. They receive enthusiastic support, innovative additions, and team members who fight for the plan's success. This is what I call the incompletion principle. Our first key strategy out of 5. Rather than presenting fully formed ideas, leave strategic gaps in your proposals that invite others to contribute their expertise. The magic happens when people help build something because they develop ownership over it. Look at how Machiavelli advised his prince. He didn't suggest micromanaging every detail. Instead, he recommended setting clear boundaries while creating space for advisors to showcase their wisdom. This creates deeper buy-in than any perfectly presented plan ever could. Think of your ideas not as finished paintings, but as thoughtfully designed coloring books. Provide the essential structure, but leave deliberate spaces for others to add their color. The key is ensuring these gaps aren't random, but precisely placed where others' expertise can shine. In practice, this means presenting 80% of a solution and explicitly inviting input on the remaining 20%. Not because you can't complete it yourself, but because strategic incompletion activates others' desire to contribute and creates psychological ownership. Next time you need support for an idea, don't polish it to perfection. Instead, create frameworks, not finished products, and watch how eagerly others complete them. Notice how they defend and champion ideas they helped create. The incompletion principle doesn't just get your ideas accepted, it transforms them into our ideas, which are infinitely more powerful. Now, as we move to our second strategy, ask yourself, where in your life are you trying too hard to present complete solutions when strategic gaps might serve you better? Number 2. The vacuum of expertise. You've likely encountered someone whose rare insights seem more valuable than gold. Their words carry weight precisely because they're selectively shared. When they finally speak, everyone leans in. This isn't accidental, it's the deliberate creation of what I call a vacuum of expertise. Think about the dynamics in meetings where one person immediately answers every question. Initially, they may seem impressive, but soon their constant input loses value. Contrast this with someone who speaks less frequently, but with precision and depth. Their selective contribution creates anticipation and perceived value. This principle operates on a fundamental law of human psychology. Scarcity increases desire. We value what isn't freely available. The expert who solves problems before others even recognize them demonstrates skill, but the one who strategically allows others to struggle before offering guidance creates something more powerful, a hunger for their expertise. This brings us to our second strategy of 5, the vacuum of expertise. Deliberately refrain from showcasing all your knowledge in your field. Instead of immediately solving every problem, occasionally step back from situations where your expertise is expected. Warren Buffett, one of history's greatest investors, doesn't comment on every market movement. His strategic silence on most topics makes his rare pronouncements front-page news. When asked questions outside his carefully defined circle of competence, he creates a void by saying, "I don't know." This makes his insights within his domain seem even more valuable. The vacuum of expertise isn't about withholding help or playing mind games. It's about understanding that constant availability diminishes perceived value. By creating periodic absences in areas where you excel, you allow others to experience the gap between problems and solutions without your input. When you do eventually step in, your contribution appears even more valuable against the backdrop of that struggle. This creates a cycle where your expertise becomes increasingly sought after precisely because it isn't constantly accessible. To implement this, identify opportunities to step back strategically. When a problem arises in your area of expertise, resist the urge to immediately solve it. Allow the situation to develop until your input will have maximum impact. Then, when you do contribute, do so with clarity and precision. Remember, this isn't about manufacturing fake scarcity. It's about understanding that constant availability of anything, including expertise, leads to decreased valuation. By creating strategic voids, you allow others to recognize and appreciate your unique value. As we prepare to explore our third strategy, consider where in your professional life you might be too available, too quick to solve problems that others should struggle with first. Number 3. The conversational void technique. Have you ever noticed how uncomfortable silence makes most people feel? In conversations, we rush to fill empty space, often revealing more than intended. This discomfort with silence is nearly universal, and understanding it gives you a powerful edge in any interaction. Next time you're in a negotiation, try this. After the other person states their position, don't respond immediately. Simply maintain eye contact and wait. 5 seconds of silence feels like an eternity in conversation. What happens in those seconds reveals a fascinating aspect of human psychology. Most people interpret silence as disagreement or disapproval. This creates internal pressure to elaborate, to justify, to offer concessions, all without you saying a word. FBI negotiators use this technique to extract additional information and better terms without making demands. This brings us to our third strategy of 5, the conversational void technique. Master the strategic pause in conversations. While most people rush to fill silence, practice waiting 3 to 5 seconds after someone speaks before responding. This void creates psychological pressure that often leads others to reveal additional information or concede points they wouldn't otherwise. The person who controls the silence controls the conversation. Machiavelli understood that power comes not from speaking, but from creating spaces that compel others to speak. When you resist the urge to fill conversational gaps, you gain three distinct advantages. First, you gather more information as others elaborate to fill the silence. Second, you appear more thoughtful and deliberate. Third, you maintain position power by not revealing your thoughts prematurely. Implementing this technique requires practice and discipline. Our instinct is to immediately respond, especially when we have something valuable to contribute. Start by consciously counting to 3 in your head before responding in important conversations. As you become comfortable with this pause, extend it to 5 seconds in negotiations or crucial discussions. Notice how people react. Some will become visibly uncomfortable and offer concessions. Others will reveal additional information trying to elicit your response. Either way, you gain advantage without saying a word. This technique is particularly powerful when someone makes an offer or request. Instead of immediately accepting or countering, create a thoughtful void. Simply wait. You'll be surprised how often people improve their initial offer simply because you remained silent. Remember, this isn't about being manipulative. It's about understanding that conversations have natural rhythms that most people have never learned to control. By mastering these rhythms, you create spaces that others fill in ways that serve your mutual interests. As we move to our 4th strategy, consider where in your communications you might be speaking too quickly when strategic silence would serve you better. Number 4. The partial pattern method. Our brains are pattern recognition machines. We find faces in clouds, connect random events into meaningful stories, and feel profound discomfort when sequences remain unfinished. This compulsion to complete patterns is so strong that hearing an incomplete musical scale creates physical tension until the final note resolves it. Skilled storytellers leverage this by using cliffhangers to ensure you return for the next episode. Marketers use it by creating collection sets where having most pieces compels you to acquire the rest. This isn't just clever marketing, it's tapping into a fundamental aspect of human cognition. Consider the last time you couldn't stop thinking about an unresolved situation. Perhaps a conversation that ended abruptly or a project left 90% complete. The psychological tension created by these incomplete patterns can be more motivating than any direct request. This brings us to our 4th strategy of 5, the partial pattern method. Present information in patterns that are 80% complete, then stop. Our brains are pattern recognition machines that feel profound discomfort with unfinished sequences. When you deliberately leave patterns incomplete, others will not only complete them but often expand them beyond what you could have achieved alone. The key is understanding exactly which 20% to leave undone. Leonardo da Vinci mastered this technique in his art. His strategic use of sfumato, intentionally blurred areas, created spaces for viewers' imaginations to complete. This is why his works continue to fascinate centuries later. They're participatory experiences, not passive viewings. To implement this method effectively, start by identifying clear patterns in your communication or projects. These could be sequential steps, numerical series, or conceptual frameworks. Then deliberately leave strategic gaps, not random omissions, but carefully chosen spaces where others can contribute meaningfully. For example, when presenting a business plan, you might thoroughly develop 4 aspects while leaving the 5th outlined but incomplete. This creates a natural space for others to contribute without feeling like an afterthought. Their addition completes the pattern you established. In team settings, assign 4 parts of a 5-part project while leaving the 5th component deliberately undefined beyond its basic parameters. Watch how team members voluntarily develop that component to complete the pattern, often with greater enthusiasm than if directly assigned. The partial pattern method works because incompletion creates tension, while the established pattern provides direction for resolving that tension. This combination guides others toward completion in ways that serve your objectives while giving them psychological satisfaction. As we prepare to explore our final strategy, consider where in your work or relationships you might leverage the power of strategic incompletion to motivate specific actions from others. Number 5. The inverse authority principle. Think about the leaders who have most influenced you. Were they the ones who projected flawless competence in every area, or those who demonstrated mastery in specific domains while openly acknowledging areas where they needed support? Counterintuitively, admitting specific limitations often creates stronger influence than projecting total competence. This paradox emerges from our deep psychological need to feel valued. When someone appears perfect in every way, we can admire them but struggle to connect. Their completeness leaves no space for us to contribute meaningfully. But when someone demonstrates excellence while acknowledging specific areas where they need input, that creates a powerful opportunity for connection. Vulnerability, when strategically deployed, doesn't diminish authority, it transforms it. The key is understanding the crucial difference between random transparency and calculated incompleteness. One diminishes credibility, the other enhances it. This brings us to our 5th and final strategy, the inverse authority principle. Counterintuitively, strategic admission of specific limitations creates stronger influence than projecting total competence. By acknowledging particular areas where you need input, you create targeted voids that others feel compelled to fill, while simultaneously building trust through vulnerability. This calculated incompleteness positions you as both authentic and worthy of assistance. Abraham Lincoln mastered this technique during his presidency. While decisive in military strategy, he openly sought counsel on certain domestic matters. This didn't diminish his leadership. It strengthened it by creating spaces where cabinet members could contribute meaningfully. They fought harder for Lincoln's success precisely because they felt ownership in specific aspects of his administration. To implement this principle effectively, first establish clear domains of expertise where your authority is unquestioned. Then identify specific areas where others have knowledge or skills that complement yours. Openly acknowledge these gaps not as weaknesses, but as opportunities for collaboration. The magic happens when you frame these acknowledgments not as deficiencies, but as invitations for others to showcase their expertise. This creates a powerful dynamic where people feel valued for their unique contributions, while still respecting your overarching authority. For example, a CEO might demonstrate complete command of business strategy while openly seeking input on emerging technologies. This doesn't diminish their leadership. It enhances it by creating space for technical experts to contribute meaningfully and feel valued. The inverse authority principle works because it transforms hierarchy into partnership without sacrificing positional power. It creates strategic voids that others eagerly fill, because doing so satisfies their need for recognition and contribution. As we reach the conclusion of our strategies, consider where in your leadership or influence attempts you might be projecting too much completeness when strategic vulnerability would serve you better. We've explored 5 powerful strategies that leverage the psychology of strategic voids. Deliberate spaces that motivate others to act in ways that serve mutual interests. From the incompletion principle to the inverse authority technique, each approach taps into fundamental human drives. Our need for completion, our valuation of scarcity, our discomfort with silence, our compulsion to finish patterns, and our desire to contribute meaningfully. Machiavelli's genius wasn't in controlling every aspect of power, but in understanding which spaces to leave deliberately empty. True influence doesn't come from forcing others to follow your complete vision. It emerges from creating carefully designed voids that others rush to fill. As you implement these strategies, remember that the goal isn't manipulation, but mutual benefit through understanding human psychology. The most powerful voids are those that allow others to contribute their best while serving shared objectives. Master the strategic void and watch as others voluntarily fulfill your most important needs. The next video the algorithm chose for you isn't random. It's your next tactical upgrade. Click it now and continue your silent ascent.